ولكن تريد لبلدها.
If you have food in your fridge, clothes on your back, a roof over your head, and a safe place to sleep, you are richer than 75% of the world. If you have money in the back of your wallet and some spare change, you are among the top 8% of the world's wealthy. If you woke up this morning with more health than illness, you are more blessed than the million people who will not survive the week. If you have never experienced the danger of battle, the agony of imprisonment, or torture, or the horrible pangs of starvation, you are luckier than 500 million people alive and suffering. Ask an average American about slavery, and they'll tell you that it ended 150 years ago. They would be wrong. 27 million people worldwide are enslaved in the sex trade, an industry that generates $32 billion annually. In 1809, $40,000 would purchase a slave. 2009, $90. It costs the same amount of money to adopt a dog from the pound as it does a human life.
Countries such as Thailand and Singapore began developing diversified economic plans and maintained high levels of economic growth in the 1960s and 1970s. Other countries such as Cambodia and Laos struggled to have any economic development plans since Western countries left the colonies. Human traffickers were quick to see the needs of both the poverty-stricken people and the wants of the growing industrial countries. Traffickers took advantage of the masses of impoverished people in one country and the need for cheap, compliant labor present in another. Even today, there remains a large economic gap between the relatively wealthy countries, such as Thailand and Singapore, and the extremely poor, such as Cambodia and Laos. This gap leaves many uneducated and impoverished peoples open to the dangerous promises of traffickers. In Southeast Asia, the sex tourism industry also began to emerge in the 1960s and 1970s, when the newly industrializing nations began promoting traditional tourism as another way to continue economic growth. Many countries relied heavily on the profits from tourism and indirectly supported the growth of sex tourism. As global travel has become even more accessible and affordable, and the sex tourism industry in Southeast Asia has become better known throughout the internet, travel into the region for this purpose has continued to increase. The growth of the sex tourism industry in Southeast Asia was also aided by the numerous American military installations present throughout the region since the end of World War II. Not only did these bases lead to an increased demand for sex services in the surrounding areas, but also in other areas throughout the region. Many of the American service personnel who received rest and relaxation periods during conflicts were sent to growing urban areas across Asia. As a result of the increased demand, both near military installations and in urban centers, the sex sectors in these areas expanded dramatically and affect more and more women.
Many families sell young women into sex slavery to make a few extra dollars. Little do they know, they're sending their daughters into the most horrific situation on earth. 20 million people are enslaved around the world, and 10 million of those are children. And, for them it's quite similar to 19th century slavery. The major difference is these young women, and quite frankly men, are all dead of AIDS by the time they hit their late 20s.
Is it as bad as we imagine?
Worse. Because so many of those enslaved are children, they're growing up in the brothels and in the streets, all while being forced to serve anywhere between 100 and 1,500 customers per year. These women are denied food, medical care, and basic human dignity.
I am scared whenever I will be employed, the men will rape me. Even if I marry a prince tomorrow and wear expensive saris and sit in a big car, people will still think I'm a prostitute. I cannot change that.
These women wait for death, even when they can walk away from the brothels and start their life again. One of these ladies begged an American charity to take her child, but not both of them. She saw her life is over, which is the view most of the region shares. Government hospitals in Mumbai reject the dying women and see them as hopeless and as a waste of a bed. Women that are refused medical care or seek it too late are tossed onto the streets to die by their owners. When hiring a prostitute, most men don't see all the harm done to these women. These women and children are forced to look happy, to be there doing their job. Japanese men that travel to Thailand to visit brothels think that they are helping a charity by giving money to the poor in exchange for sex. What they don't realize is that these women are threatened and assaulted daily.
These traffickers are getting braver and braver every year, taking tourists from their hotels, women from their jobs, and children from their beds. Soon, entire countries' economies will be based on the sex trade.
No one, man, woman, or child, will walk the streets safely in these already dangerous countries. As these criminals become more daring, trafficking will spread throughout the globe. However, there's a way to help.
The money from your purchase goes to fund raids on brothels, education, medical care, and other life-saving services provided to those rescued from these horrific situations. Without your help, the future for these young women and children is bleak.